Are we live? Oh, we've been live for 9 seconds.
You're just staring at the screen doing nothing.
I'm just staring at well, my notes were above the live now little
Oh, I
mark.
see.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll go for it then. Welcome to Slow and Steady, the podcast where you get to follow along as we build products in public. Each week, we'll give you an honest peek into our lives as we share our struggles, our wins, and everything in between. I'm Benedicta, and I'm feeling playful.
And I'm Benedict. Today is June 13th. This is episode number 182, and I'm feeling a lot better.
A lot better. But before everything, we met in person 2 weeks ago.
Yes! That's why I'm feeling a lot better now. No, joking. No, actually, I've been sick the last couple of days, and today is the first day where I'm like back at my desk actually doing some work.
That
But
doesn't
yes, we
happen
met in
quite often
person.
with you. Yeah, we met in person.
Yeah.
And we were the sizes we imagined, which is
Yeah.
always the fun part about meeting online people.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like you can get a pretty good idea about everything except for the actual height of the person. And for example, your partner Ola, I thought he was a lot taller than he actually is.
Because he's actually like the same size, or he's the same height as me, but he's skinnier. So he has like next to me, he's a little bit smaller. But on stream, he usually has his face all the way up into the camera, so he looks like he has a big head, but he has a smaller head.
Yeah, it's funny how that works.
Yeah, perspective. Isn't that what it's called? Like where we just
Yeah.
read a book yesterday. I started reading a book for Lillian, who's called that is called "What's Up with All the Naked People in Art." It's a great but it turns out it's about all the questions you might have about art. So some of the questions were like, do you see 2 or 3 faces here? And they were like showing a photo of one of Picasso's artwork and like talking about how he painted things from different perspectives in the same painting. And then there were some other people who did that as well. And she actually found that very like interesting. She was like, yeah, I like this stuff, I don't like that. And then we looked at some abstract art and she was like, well, I see a cow in there. And she like showed me where she saw a cow, and I was like, I would never have seen a cow in that photo. And she's like, I like imagining what it could be. I'm like, great. Then you can appreciate modern art more than your mother can.
Well, yeah, depends on the artwork probably. Like, this is a blue square.
Well, it was
What
basically
can you
that.
see?
It
Okay.
was yes, it was like a black square on top of a blue square, and then there were some red squares, and in her head it was like a bull with like horns and stuff. And I could see it when I'll see if I can find it online and add it to this episode, and you can see if you can see
Yeah,
everything
nice.
Lillian sees in a modern painting.
Yeah.
But anywho, so what do we do in like work life? When we're not traveling to Athens and hanging out in the warm weather.
Right. So I think it's been 3 weeks since we last talked, and or since we last recorded, I guess.
Yeah.
And I can confidently say that I didn't do a lot. At least not nothing that's like super like super big milestones or stuff like that. So I've been preparing my talk. Did the talk at the conference. I think it went very well.
It went really
Got some
well. I
good.
really enjoyed that talk. So we should link
Thank
to
you.
the recording if it's out already.
No, I don't think it's out already, but it will be out there eventually, I think. So we'll link to it when it's available. And yeah, had a good time in Athens. Met Jane for the first time, like Jane, my co-founder, for the first time in 4 years, something like that. Yeah, must have been 4 years or 3.5, something like that. That was very nice. It's been way too long, but yeah, that's just how it is, I guess.
Yeah.
And overall had a good time at the conference. And then once we were back, or I was back, I had to do a lot of catch up on work that got neglected while I was at the conference or like preparing for the conference. And then I got sick. So that's about it.
Yeah, I just kept on traveling.
Yeah,
So
right.
last time we recorded, I was in Trondheim, and then I realized that I had booked kind of the Athens, because we ended up going to Athens with the whole family for a full week, because we could stay with the one of Atsera's co-founders, Dimitris, which was really nice. I got to meet him. I'd never met him in person. I'd met Jeff, but then Jeff also came to Athens, who's one of the other co-founders of Atseta. So that was really cool to just have all three of us in Athens. But so we went to whole family, and in my mind, that was in June, and I booked the travels, and we left on the 28th of May. But in my head, this was like June. And then while we were painting the cabin in the end of May, same weekend. so Ula and I had to like go down there on the Wednesday, the week before, to like help out and start to get the painting and stuff, or do our part for the painting. And of course it's not done, so we're going to be painting all summer, but at least like we showed up for the time that we were supposed to show up with my sister.
Kept your promises.
Kept our promises, almost, at least. But it's just funny. Like, I think also, like, I really just wanted to go to Athens. I think my brain just like made that false kind of like a little bit by choice, not by choice, but deliberately, like it wanted me to go to Athens. But it's weird, like how those, it was like, that's just June, that's May, like two totally different months, but they overlapped. So we ended up, so I didn't get to do much work like that week, and then it was Athens. And then I went to what was the only thing I was supposed to do this spring, and that was going to Slow Business Adventure on the west coast of Norway, which is like a little like business conference or unconference, where small business owners can meet up, and we go for workshops in the mountains and like talk about our business and our challenges and those kinds of things. And I've been a part of this community for a long time, so I kind of just wanted to hang out with them, and so that was on Tuesday. So I was home. We came home midnight Sunday, night to Sunday. Did worked on Monday, and then worked at the bank on Monday, and then headed to the West Coast on Tuesday with both my laptops, because I was going to work. I was like, I'll let them do some of the walks in the mountains, and then I'll just work. But Norway has a heat wave. This never happens. So it was almost 30 degrees on the west coast of Norway. The mountains, there wasn't a cloud. Like, usually when you decide like, oh, let's have a Norway vacation this year, you end up like walking up these mountains, and it's raining sideways, and it's colder than you've ever been, and it's just like, so I was just like, okay, all bets are off. I'm gonna go on this hike. So we hiked to the top of a mountain and swam in a glacier lake, or lake that is getting its water straight from one of the glaciers that were a little further up. And it was awesome because it was so warm that you could swim in like a glacier lake and then get out and get warm again, almost like a sauna. Well, it wasn't that warm, but for a Norwegian, it was almost like a sauna when it's all, and it just keeps on going. So today also, I went to the bank, worked half day, and then went swimming, because I mean, it's 30 degrees in Oslo, and like, what can you do? It's just, all bets are off. Like, nobody does anything but enjoy the weather. So I don't know when I'm going to work, but I got work I need to do. And I also, I don't know, I probably like touched on it, but it could last like a month and a half. I don't know, I'm just like, I'm a little like, I'm not that interested in my internet life, which kind of kept me sane through all of COVID. And like, I have so many colleagues, I would say, or like, internet friends. But then being on top of this mountain, and we did other things. I can't remember what that was, where I was also like, why am I even on this like web? Like, this is real life. So I was I'm in a Discord with some content creators, and I just like said, maybe one should create content in the winter and then just like schedule whatever needs to be scheduled for the algorithms during the summer, because they were also feeling similar. And I think it is like when it's so nice outside and people are like coming out of their houses and there's barbecues in backyards and, you know, those kinds of things. That's not when you want to be like, yes, I'm going to sit inside on my laptop and write the most epic blog post ever. So, and I've always been a fan of like working in seasons and work, like it doesn't have to be the same all year long or like all the time. It doesn't have to be the same, be it the week or the month or the, yeah. So I'm going to think I'm going to be even more intentional with that going forward to just like, yeah, do more of that when you're stuck inside in bad weather anyway. And then do even less from like May to September. Or
Yeah,
like
makes
end of
sense.
May. Because July has always been like that for me. But I don't know. I feel like June, July, and August, like 3 months where things should be more like scheduled and ready to go and not something that has to be made while. Yeah. And this other guy.
Until it gets too hot and then you kind of want to stay inside again.
Well, see, that doesn't happen in Norway. That is not an issue.
Yeah.
It's never too hot. I'm guessing the guy in my content creator group who's in Texas, like, you know, he might have some feelings around that. But then he replied, he was like, you might be onto something there, because they were all feeling a little like, ugh, you know, like I don't want to create, blah, blah, blah. And then maybe it's just because it's summer and like outside is more interesting.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So anyway,
It's pretty warm around here as well these days, and it's the beginning of the season where I don't sleep well, because well, it's warm. It doesn't cool down as much at night anymore, and then usually we open the windows to get at least some like fresh air into our bedroom. But then the sun rises super early. So first half of the night is too warm, and then at some point its temperature is okay, but then it's too bright. So that usually ends up in me not sleeping well for a couple of weeks until things get saner again. And I can see this is starting.
Do you get used to it, or do things change?
Well, at some point it gets cooler again, and
Yeah.
I mean, we're almost to midsummer, right? So yeah, days get shorter eventually and nights get longer eventually. So at some point it levels out again.
Yeah. I just get a burst of energy and, like I said, playfulness. I'm just like, it's light at night, like let's go out for midnight swim, or you know, I just don't want to go to bed. I just want to have fun with friends. That's like the energy I get. And the weird thing is that I also woke up at like 6:30 this morning, or 6 or whatever, and started like answering those support tickets because I was ready to go. Not feeling like I've slept bad, like you're saying, but just like I feel like I need 3 hours less sleep as when we're in kind of this season. I can just go on so much. I don't know what, it's just like, oh, I mean, and this will sound super weird to people who live in places where it's like warm-ish most of the year, and it's like the same light most of the year. But for those of us who live in Northern Europe, it's like you don't understand how liberating it is that you can just like walk outside without putting on all of your clothes, and you can also walk outside in the morning and it's light. It's just
right. Yeah.
It
makes sense. For me, unfortunately, like last night, I think we went to bed like 11:30, something like that. And then it took me until like 1 a.m. to fall asleep, and then I woke up at 4 again because it was getting sun was rising.
You need air conditioning and blackout blinds. That's what you need.
Yeah, that's basically the problem. Like a blackout is not a problem. Like we can get it dark enough, but then it's too warm.
Yeah.
So yes, we kind of need air conditioning, but it's not an option in this rental thing here.
Oh, well. But back to work. I could talk about this weather forever, but this is also weird for other folks that Northern Europeans can talk so much about weather. But in my work / personal life, I just realized that lack of documentation is my life right now, because we are building out staircase in one of our houses, or like parts of this property, or whatever you want to call it. And they just cut a giant hole in the floor, and it turns out there's like 3 electrical tubes going there, and nobody knows where they're going to or from or where they're going. Do we have the electrical wiring documentation for what's been done? No, we do not. So tomorrow, my electrical friend's company is sending somebody out, and I was like, you need to start. They haven't done this work, but they've been like doing things after the main stuff has been done. So I was like, you need to start documenting. I need there to be a diagram. So whenever you find out what something does, I need it to be on the diagram and labeled. And he was like, okay, we're going to do that. So I'm going to follow up on that, because I need this documented. Like, I need to know where things are going. And I feel the same thing with, like, I'm working for Adseta now, and being in the same situation that you guys are. Like, not everything is documented, and you're asking support questions, and then there's not an answer in the documentation. And then you have to ask them, the people who did the work, or like who's coded this, like how does it actually work? And then I need to be the person who then takes time to write out the documentation. But do I? No. So I need to be better at not just answering support, but actually keep filling in the documentation. And then I started working on the Framer integrations. The Framer, we talked about that earlier. It's one of the site builders. And we're gonna create one of they kind of have a little utilities section where like companies can add their own components that people can drag onto their website. And it's mostly documented, but the part where you kind of get into their store, that's not documented, because that's still beta, I think. So now I'm in the Slack with them, asking them documentation, like questions about how to get things done, because it's not documented. So I'm in a little bit of like a documentation black hole or whatever at the moment, where I just have to figure things out as we go along. But that is one of my superpowers. So we're going to make it work.
Yeah, that reminds me that Michael, who does support for us, has recently been, well, even just yesterday, updating documentation for exactly the same reason. And it's actually one of his tasks that he's supposed to do, but usually there's too much support load that this gets kind of neglected. But when he has some downtime, he's now actually updating the website, which is kind of nice.
But it's one of those things where it's like, yes, the support load is high, and if you documented it, maybe it would go down, but you don't have time to document it because support load is high. And then it just ends up being this loop of just a lot of knowledge in support tickets and not so much knowledge on the site. But we're actually playing internally about having like a little AI thing that like takes all the documentation, and then also all the transcripts from videos, and then also all of the old support tickets, because we'll just use it internally on the site. Like, it's not going to be publicly available. Or did we choose not to do that? I think we're going to do one that's public, and then one where we do where we also train it on the support tickets. And then when you get a new support ticket, because we have a support tickets system as part of Adseta, you can then kind of see information from what has been answered before also, not just what is documented. Because I found some support tickets where like one of the engineers have kind of documented something in a support ticket. And then if I see that again, then I could like pull that out and put it into the documentation as well. But they would also help everyone answering support tickets when you can get that.
Yes.
I feel like experimenting with that.
This is one of those features that I think all customer support tools should add eventually soonish. Because that's really something where I can see the value of those AI models and stuff like that. Because I'm not sure I like the idea of like having automated chatbots that like you as a customer chat to, and then I don't know, you get an infinite loop of like not getting your answer or whatever. But helping someone who works in customer support surfacing the answer that they might not have like readily available in their minds yet, or even just cutting down on the time to type it. That would be super useful, and hopefully our customer support tool adds this feature soon.
Yeah, because it's not just because we have these, we have these like ready-made answers that somebody has saved that you never remember are there. And then those should also pop up on like different keywords and stuff. And I don't think our system does that, but kind of having that, but AI, where you can be
Yeah.
like, oh, I'll just like copy that paragraph, copy that paragraph, and then change a little bit if needed, would be super helpful. And especially also with code snippets, because then like if
Yeah.
if it's been used before and worked for somebody, then you could use it. But we do have, so the guys working on this has already said like we have problems with hallucination. So
Mm-hmm.
where the AI just like makes up stuff, because he was asking like how to disconnect from Stripe, I think. And there is a how to connect, or when you connect, there's a button, but when you disconnect, it's not. And then that wasn't documented properly, I guess. So when he asked it how to disconnect from Stripe, it like made up a disconnect button.
Yeah.
Because it took the inverse of, and it's like, well, it's can't just make up shit.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess that's where it's still useful as an internal tool, right? Because you kind of want all of your support people to be experts in the product as well. But like, if you know that that's not the way to do it, at least it helps you with some of the typing, right? Or like, maybe once it learned that this isn't the way, maybe it returns to say the correct way. But like showing that to a customer, like that's a sure way to anger a customer, I guess.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
Yeah, so that's why it is interesting to look at as an internal tool, at least first. And then also I think then maybe you can uncover documentation hole, or like lacking documentation. And when you start filling that out, then you'll have more and more answers that the AI can help you with, which is interesting. But on Slow Business Adventure, because most of those people are not techies, so somebody was showing kind of this tool that obviously used OpenAI, ChatGPT type stuff in the background. So I was like, well, let me show you ChatGPT, because this tool is basically just using that. And then we did, write us a blog post about Slow Business Adventure in the form of Fader vår, which is, again, I can't remember what it's called in English. It's that prayer, like God thou art in heaven, thou fatherly, something. Yes. And I mean, getting it to write things in like old styles is so fun, because it's so good at it, because there's so much data that it can like pull from, and it doesn't really matter if it hallucinates. So they were just like blown away, because then it wrote like this 8-verse poem about Slow Business Adventure. And the original Slow Business Adventure was in 2019. So I think even that might have been like in ChatGPT 3's training set, because it was spot on. So like one of some of the people like did it as like a performance piece at night, where they like did it with like one plays a violin, so she played the violin and somebody kind of did it as like a spoken word type of things, and people were like laughing, because one of them were like, forgive us our impatience. Was like the start of one. And it was like so like to the point, like it was taking kind of the it understood the concept of slow business and Slow Business Adventure like really well. So the poem was super fun, and they did like a really good job of like doing like a spoken word version of it. So for entertainment purpose. That's the first time I've really been entertained by an AI. But
Nice.
it was also the human touch of the performance element
Of
made
course.
it, because they like did it very seriously, and also Shakespearean sonnets it can do really well because there's a lot of Shakespeare.
Makes
He was very
sense.
prolific. Yeah. So that's my AI tip of the day.
Write a poem about Slow and Steady. I wish I
We should
try
that. Yeah, we should try that. And then we could actually make one of those chatbots, where it's like we take a transcript, if we transcribe all of the episodes, and then we can make a chatbot where people can like talk to Slow and Steady and have answers from what we've talked about and like how we would talk about it.
Sounds like a plan. And then we just get those voice generator thingies, and we don't even have to show up to the recording anymore.
But then I have to start paying for therapy.
True.
So let's not do that. Let's not go that far.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm gonna have some more interesting work updates next week when I've been working more on the Framer Outseta integration.
Yeah, I hopefully have some more interesting work updates as well because working on fun stuff this week.
I'm going to React Norway on Friday. So
nice.
Into a conference. And we're traveling again. So yay.
Even more traveling.
Well, it's just down the road.
Have a nice conference and a nice week.
And maybe see you on the interwebs if I'm not only playing in the sun.
Yep, maybe. Well then, bye.
Bye-bye.